I think when a founder steps into the domain of wanting to start something, launch something, for him, truly sky and beyond is the limit. One of my immediate sort of requests, especially in early stage, is to hire a head of people, because founders think that recruiting and maintaining talent could be managed while they build these incredible things, whereas that's not true at all. Change is happening to the environment around us, and businesses who are building environmentally sustainable solutions to the way we operate are the ones who will create not only large markets for themselves, but large returns for their stakeholders as well.
Welcome to the Change Officer, Ankit.
Thank you, Vivek.
I'm happy that you're here, and I'm excited to talk about a couple of different things. But before that, very exciting period behind you guys and the overall venture capital space. It's been very exciting over the previous couple of years, huh?
Truly. Thank you for having me, first of all.
Yeah.
It's an absolute delight to be here. Hopefully we'll talk about some interesting things. I'll try to be as candid as possible. And yes, past 2 years, especially 2021 so far, has been incredibly active. And I just hope this is the beginning of a huge curve.
Yeah, I think we are in it for a couple of more years at least of this kind of roller coaster, maybe then some stabilization period, and then again.
Very long go on.
For sure. So we're going to talk about a couple of changes, all right? So what I would like to explore with you, given your background and experience, you've been in venture capital space for a while now, back in India and then in UAE. It's total of what, 10 years or even more?
It's been a decade.
So you've been around, you've spent a lot of time with founders, and you had that unique opportunity to be with companies from their early stage all the way up to, their maturity stage and growth stage. So you've posted a very interesting article on LinkedIn where you said it's an amazing opportunity to be in VC and to witness 5 to 7 years of founders development and how they change from day one. All right, day one when they knock on your door and ask for some angel seed capital, naive and probably inexperienced, where you rip them off with equity that you take.
No, you're very conservative, not at all.
And then later on, after a couple of years of experience, how they develop in true leaders, right? So let's start by one of the points that you mentioned, which is talent. And how their appetite and their strategy when it comes to getting talent change from the day one to the day 1001.
Yeah.
Or even more.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about that topic was that I somehow felt that it's not often discussed. And what we see, especially in the journeys of founders, is an evolution that you don't see anywhere else, other than, I think, the closest category of people that come to that kind of evolution are sports persons. So somebody who's a 19-year-old breakaway winger who runs fast, dribbles, and scores this amazing World Cup opener is a founder on day zero, because that's how he wants to run, wants to dribble, wants to go past midfielders and the back line, and just he's got his eyes set on that one goal, and that's it. And fast forward the same winger to, I don't know, 8 years later, 9 years later, who's now settled at Real Madrid and understands the games much better, paces himself, understands the amount of work that has to go before the match and after the match for him to be able to play that match is identical to how a founder is 5, 6, 7 years down the line, where he knows that half of the work is away from that laptop, away from that office, wherein he's got to think more, think first and act later rather than the other way around. I think I mentioned talent. because every founder, especially now, understands that at the core of any transformation that he wants to bring about in an industry, he needs to have a team that he can trust and build and invest in for the long run. When it all starts for a founder, I think the founders look for skills uh, that are complementary, yes, but very identical. So they look for a fraction of hustle that is equivalent to theirs. For example, they look for talent that can stay up as long in the night as they are, have as much hunger as they have. Uh, and that's why I use the word cowboys, right? Which is a word often associated with the way Uber recruited earlier in the day. But that's identical to how a lot of founders operate, and they try to recruit sort of a talent pool which is identical in attitude, especially attitude, because that is where they bond and they gel. And they look away from a few aspects, a few finer aspects, and which is basically taken par for the course, because they feel that has 80% of this person, or of the CTO or CPO or CFO, which is in place, and he has the same kind of an attitude that I need at this moment right now, and that's how these teams are formed. And you see those results because that is the stage at which these startups are growing dynamically, not just in terms of size, but also in terms of products they are offering and the level of innovation that is going on. Several aspects of this team that is formed are not standard to what you want to see in the recruits 5 years down the line. Right? Reason why I say that is it's not just the founder who has matured, but it's also the startup that has matured. The problems they are solving for have matured. The clients they are dealing are a different type of clients completely. The users they are dealing with is a different kind of users already. And that's why I think while a lot of founders, start to believe in passing the baton, not in terms of the control of the company or the key decisions of the company, but I think in terms of sharing responsibilities more openly. And that's why the sort of talent that these founders look for 5 or 7 years down the line is the type of talent that they can trust in and rely on and pass the baton on and completely be left mind free of things that they will do, because there's an implicit trust that they will execute it well. And I think that's why a lot of times you see that in late stages of a company, especially around Series B or Series C, you see a lot of consulting talent joining these companies. I don't want to generalize it, but I think one of the reasons why that happens is because consultants have a very stable way of going about their day-to-day projects, and that's the first prerequisite, I think, at that stage, because not just the founder but the investors are also expecting growth, but in a stable fashion. There could not be pivots at that stage, although some companies have pulled off late stage pivots as well, but that is rare. So stability and reliability in those late stages compared to this cowboy hustle like attitude at the beginning is the whole journey that the company undertakes, led by the founder.
And that's usually the case with first time founders, I'm sure, most of the time. In case of the founders who are doing it for the second or for the third time, is it the same case, or they start recruiting this 5-6 years old talent immediately at the start?
Look, second time founders are a different ballgame altogether, because more often than not, they will have some of their tribe following them from the previous version of or the previous startup. So second time founders almost typically will land on the table in a discussion with the team in place, even if it's for a seed stage. And if not the team, then he'll definitely have an idea of who he wants, when does he want him, can he afford him now or later, but he has a complete idea of the team. I think first time founders is it's a bit of iteration on the go, right? It's mostly a founder, a co-founder, and one more guy. But everybody else is recruited on the go. Most likely, these discussions are over a coffee, and like I said, if they bond, if they truly connect, then they are on board. So while for a first time founder, those teams are built on the go. More often than not, a second time founder will have a team already in place. If not on board technically, then definitely once the seed round closes, they'll be on board.
So from the perspective of investor and having your experience in mind, you've been around, you saw a lot of startups grow. When you onboard the first time founder and you invest in them in the early stage, and you specialize in early stage investments, what do you advise them?
One of my key advices is, first of all, there is a way to structure these discussions, right? Because every founder is very protective of the things that they do, and that's why I think to begin with, the sort of advices have to be around the little changes that can have maximum impact. So one of my immediate sort of requests, especially in early stage, is to hire a head of people, because founders think that recruiting and maintaining talent could be managed while they build these incredible things, whereas that's not true at all. I think having a people-centric culture stems from the fact that you have somebody in the organization to look after your people on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week basis.
That's very interesting and very valuable advice. So you're saying that one of the first hires, obviously, when you have a team to manage, is head of people.
Oh yes, that's critical. You can't overlook that fact anymore.
And that's not HR.
Look, the operation side of HR is different, whereas the qualitative side of HR is something else. Ideally, typically, you would like to have a head of people who can do both, manage the operation side of HR as well as the qualitative side. And I think this is more central to companies in the distributed manner in which companies are being built these days, right? You have a team in Poland, you have a team in Vietnam, you have a team in India, and you have the headquarters in Dubai. For anybody to be effectively leading these varied pool of talent and resources, and believe that the founder can do that is basically asking him to do something that may not be his core, and possibly setting him up for failure. And however, if you have a dedicated resource and a team who are constantly looking after the welfare and the sustainability and the long-term growth of this talent pool, that's a non-negotiable in this day and age.
So, very interesting. So one more thing that you mentioned that caught my attention, and I think that happened actually on our prep call for the podcast, was overpromising.
Yes.
And that can be seen also out of the startup world, but in startup world, it's very typical. Overpromising in the beginning.
Yes.
Unpack that for us, please.
I think, first of all, I want to say that it comes from a very, very good place, the overpromising part. I think when a founder steps into the domain of wanting to start something, launch something, his North Star is much norther than anybody else's North Star. What I want to say is that for him, truly sky and beyond is the limit. Which basically means, because it's his vision at the end of the day, he envisions a world for all of us which is devoid of any complexities. Right? If he doesn't go for an aim so ridiculously out there, then probably he would never have enough people join him in this journey, right? So starting off, I think one of the critical sort of component of whatever it is that they want to build is to have a significant change that will be caused by it, which basically means that they set about start this journey with the backdrop of a task and a target which to them is absolutely reasonable, and is a couple of multiplications here and there and a couple of additions here and there, and boom, there is quite possibly $1 trillion TAM in in that market.
How do you look at it from the investor standpoint of view?
Look, so my view is always to make sure that I don't cut on the aggressive attitude of the founder, because that is core to what he will build. But at the same time, I have to make sure that he doesn't set a target so far out as well that a year on he is looking at himself as not having achieved it, fallen short of it, not having done well enough, and all of that has an impact on how he develops from there on. So I truly like to function as closely as possible in trying to be not purely reasonable, but functioning as a soundboard. And that's why questioning the fundamentals of some of these targets and the assumptions that led to the target is my first job. So as to make sure that 6 months down the line or a year down the line, when we sit together and we look at some of the things that we've achieved together, there's not a sense of having fallen short of what we set out to do, and that there's a sense of achievement instead. That's very important. At the same time, I can't set the target too low either, so as to make everything look like an achievement, right? And I guess that's where experience comes in, because being in the market comes in, seeing plenty of things around me comes in, and knowing pretty well what's doable at the end of the year. For example, what will be truly a remarkable achievement for the company, and what is an unreasonable goal. More often than not, the median decision is to go after the remarkable numbers or the remarkable things to do. And it's not just KPIs, by the way. It's setting other targets as well. For example, hiring 10 amazing, truly path-breaking talent in the company, or launching one new market, or changing the way the things are being done, or moving to a different SDK, for example. Those are all targets that we set for ourselves between the founder and the board. But making sure that they don't become ridiculously unobtainable is my first job, definitely.
What do you think is the healthy percentage of hitting the target? So if you set $10 million of revenue as a target, what would be the healthy?
Look, anything north of 10 will be excellent.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
However,
but then you underpromised, right?
Exactly. So you can't, if you set yourself a target of 10 and you get to 14, then obviously something is wrong.
Sure.
Your planning capabilities are just not there. A lot of times when you go for 10, you may fall on 5, right? And that happens. And that's why that discussion is very contextual. What happened that we are missing that delta of 5, for example? What happened that is at the core of this underperformance? Was there truly a product level failure? Was there truly a people led failure? Was there truly a market led failure? Which, for example, if you roll back to 2020, people not getting to some of the targets with regards to people they want or technologies that they want to build. Some of the people fail to get there. It's only because of market conditions that they could not control.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think whether that arbitrage or delta in some of the targets is reasonable, is explainable or not, is very contextual. And I think at the end of the day, we're all reasonable people. If it happens, if those things happen because of unavoidable reasons, because of reasons not in the control of the founder, then they're par for the course, and we take it in the stride and we move on.
Yeah, I hear you. So you mentioned, and it's interesting, in the beginning they're overpromising, they're very aggressive, they want to conquer the world, and then they sit at the table with you at this early stage and they're asking for $500,000. and there is not that many of them who wants to give them $500,000.
Yeah.
All right. What about that change of them raising funds at the beginning of the journey, and then later on, a couple of years down the road, when they become a lot more, a lot better negotiators?
Yeah. Look, it's at the center of all of this is the ability to make a choice, right? I think is becoming less and less true actually in the world that we're in. But I think for the longest, especially at the early stages, founders could have been selective at the angel stage, but when they enter the seed stage, it's mostly a dash to close that 500K or $1 million in dollars in investment, so that they can close and they can start building, right? So basically, they have these blinders on. They run for the $1 million that they want. Wherever it falls from, they close and they move on. And I think that's the right way to go about it as well, because look, whether we like it or not, money is fungible at the end of the day. And especially at the seed stage, the founders, they don't have the time to waste to think about where is this money going to take me if taken from A investor vis-a-vis B. So a lot of time, if it comes from the top tier VC, is great. But if it doesn't, I'll take it from somebody else. Simple as that. And that's, I think, is a fair attitude to go about it. But those things change incredibly at a couple of years, 2-3 years down the line, where they've qualified for a much larger fundraise, which could be a $15 or a $20 million fundraise. And now is the time when they start to become selective. So you may walk in with $1 million check out of that 20 million that they're asking, but they'll take a sit back and think about whether that million is more important from you or from the other guy who's, I don't know, maybe more strategic. And that's when they have to figure out a way to say a polite no to a lot of people. And it's incredible because it's a privilege at the end of the day. For I sit in a very privileged position to be able to see what people do and enjoy it and relish it and critique it at times. But for a founder to be in that position, right?
It's great.
It's great. It's amazing.
Things change a bit from day one to later on. So at that stage, VCs sometimes end up in a difficult spot, and then you need to pitch yourself to the founder.
Exactly. And some founders, there are some founders with whom you've built some sort of a relationship already, even though you're not investor, but you have some sort of a relationship with them. And those are nicer conversations, right? Because, and of late, that has happened to me a couple of times, actually, where we built a very, very good relationship, but could not agree on terms. So we had to pass on the round. And then now you're actively engaged in some current discussions. But there are also times where there's an opportunity that was unknown to you, even at the seed stage or Series A stage. And that's when you have to truly pitch yourself as an investor who could make a change and why your dollar is better than somebody else's dollar. And that's when you have to pull out possibly everything, okay, to be able to get into the deal. But I think at MEVP, we have some very strong fundamental values that we bring on board. I think what founders see in us, especially if we are interacting for the first time at a late stage, is just the value that emerges from the portfolio of close to 50 companies now, and been around for 10 years and having an LP base that is truly diversified. And I think between those three factors and the in-house capabilities of further fundraisers and some of the technology support that we offer, between those 5 factors, I think, at least at MEVP, we have a very good pitch, quote unquote, to make. And I think that attracts a lot of very high quality founders to us.
So with all that confidence that you have, who was the toughest negotiator that you had the chance to talk to?
Yes, no. So I was telling you earlier as well that of all the people that I've negotiated with, I think the founder of the Luxury Closet, Kunal Kapoor, is by far the toughest I've negotiated with. And it's not just on fundraisers and valuations and things like those, but a lot of other things that go on in a company with regards to some of the key talent he wants and some of the things that he wants to do internally in the company, the markets he wants to launch, and he is. I think the germination of his negotiation is the absolute passion that he has for the business that he's building, uh, and he won't budge. He just does not budge. There is no, he doesn't bring an option B to the table. So
Well, kudos to Kunal.
kudos to Kunal. Yeah, look, for so many times it works out in the favor of the company as well. So
That's amazing.
Hey, I'm not.
We need to make sure to
complaining.
bring him on the change officer
Let's do that.
to hear his story.
Definitely, you should.
All right, I want to switch gears a bit now. So and talk about the opportunities in the market going forward, and what the changes that will happen over the next 3 to 5 years. What are the opportunities that those changes will create? So how do you see market evolve over the next couple of years, and where would you put your money on?
Look, I think one of the themes of the next 5 years or so, not just in Middle East but anywhere, will be that we'll see more and more companies who are more and more globally competitive than ever before. I feel
You're talking about local companies,
local companies.
globally competitive.
Mhm.
All right.
I think we will see that happening. I think and the reason why we'll see that happening is because now skills and talent and thought process and thought leadership is very pervasive now. They're not hiding in the silos of one street in the Silicon Valley. They're not hiding in this on the Bank Street or at a Canary Wharf in London. No, not that's not happening anymore. Technology has truly shown what a democratic world can look like, right? Where every single person in the value chain is like a very important nut bolt in this entire system, and they're crucial, and that's why they're rewarded. And I think on the based on the virtues of that, because talent is now moving, leaders are now created. Several leaders who like to be entrepreneurs themselves are now created within large internet companies, and some of the key highways of building top end technology, which is connectivity, availability of infrastructure, and availability of top dollar, are all available, not just here but anywhere else in the world. And that's why I think, even for me, it's very important to now sort of switch my lens a little bit and start looking at the opportunities that we're looking at through a globally competitive defensibility framework rather than just locally competitive and defensible. I don't think if that is a sustainable thought process. I think
interesting.
local investors will start to now compare or look at opportunities locally that can truly be differentiated globally. Otherwise, I think too many lunches will be eaten.
That's very interesting to say. And it's the first time I hear this perspective, and I'm happy that we captured it on cameras now. So this is from the market size angle, from the angle of technology industry developments. What we are witnessing now and what you anticipate is going to happen. What are some of the areas where you see future new opportunities for some new models, business models,
Sure.
products, etc.?
Sure. I think immediately, I think, although, and again, some of this will take time to sort of filter in through Asia, Middle East, because I think the European region and the United States of America are still lead the whole innovation sort of dialogue much more, and they're far ahead of the rest of the world. So a lot of the changes or the innovation that is happening in those markets will take time to trickle in Asia and maybe Middle East as well. But I think sustainability led businesses will be at the core of how we operate in this world. Yes, there are people who deny what's happening to the environment around us, what's happening to the climate around us. And a good number of them may continue to deny it, by the way, but change is happening to the environment around us, and businesses who are building environmentally sustainable solutions to the way we operate are the ones who will create not only large markets for themselves, but large returns for their stakeholders as well. And I think that's why locally, I think we'll see a substantial change in the way in the number of electric vehicles that we see on the roads here. I'm not sure if you know, but one of the largest competitors of Uber in India, called Ola, now has $1 billion funded electric vehicle only manufacturing business arm, which a lot of people are conjecturing will go public separately than the Ola, the core business itself. And while India is a really, really large market and can't afford to be environmentally unsustainable, I think that theme will only converge upon all of us, no matter where we are. And I think EVs are going to be a reality, and going to be a reality sooner than we believe. And I think the same goes for self-driven cars, which are often touted as being 20% more energy efficient than anything else. So I think that space, transportation, logistics, passenger transport, a long haul, I think are bound for a massive transformation going forward.
Interesting, because we haven't seen that many businesses being launched in that space in the region.
Yeah.
There are some.
There are some, but they're
not
on the
that
verges.
many. So if we cross we put global lens on, take it from the angle of sustainability and electric vehicles being the future. Maybe a new battery manufacturing plant is something that we could look at.
You know, the perfect example is Hassan Jameel, who's from the Abdul Latif Jameel family in Saudi Arabia, being one of the earliest investors in Rivian.
Yeah, I was reading about it yesterday.
Yeah, and that's how smaller the world has become. An investor based out of Saudi Arabia, investing in what now is one of the largest EV companies on the planet. And that's how the world has shrunk. And that's why I say that a lot of this innovation will become very pervasive. And every single person on this planet will not compete for their neighborhood, for their city, or for their country, for their market. I think everybody will get elevated to the spot where they compete globally with the best in the world.
Amazing. All right, we're going to wrap it up with this. And before we say goodbye to our great audience, we're going to play a quick quiz.
Okay, cool.
All right,
let's do it.
So I'm going to give you two options. You just pick one. It's as simple as that.
Okay, cool.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Innovation or invention?
Invention.
Agritech or edtech?
Heart says agritech, mind says edtech.
All right. CTO or CFO?
Oh, a CTO.
Or head of staff?
No, a CTO all day. Yeah.
CTO. All right. Tesla or Rivian?
Tesla.
Zboonie or the luxury closet?
Ooh, wow. Heart says TLC, mind says Zboonie.
Crypto or gold?
Crypto, for sure.
NFT, art or real art?
NFT art.
Already,
Yeah.
5 quick exits with 10x return, or 1 long exit with 100x return?
I'll take the 5 exits, yeah.
Safer. $10 million or bonus 2 years of life?
Oh, an extra 2 years for sure.
$100,000 in marketing or $100,000 in relationships with clients?
the glad relationships.
Making a bridge or jumping across?
Make a bridge.
Being invisible or being able to fly?
I would rather fly.
The Change Officer podcast or the Joe Rogan Experience?
The change of the podcast, for sure. I'll give you that one. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming, man. It was awesome.
Same here. Thank you for having me. It was a great chat, and hopefully I'll get Kunal on the mic as well very soon.
We have to do it. We're going to record a separate message to Kunal. So Kunal, this is a public invitation for you to come to the Change Officer podcast.
You have to be in this room. Be on the hot seat.
Guys, thank you for staying until the end. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and that Ankit managed to pass on some of his experience, advices, and tips that at least got you inspired or led you to one epiphany moment. Ankit, thanks for coming and taking the time.
Thank you to everybody, to your entire team, and keep rocking.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.